We weren't supposed to find anything sacred down there. Our job was simple. Laser scan a network of limestone caves ahead of a hydroelectric project. Flag geological risks. Move on. No archaeology, no anthropology, no mysteries. Just rock. On day 3, the scanner died. "Battery's full," Quan muttered, shaking the tripod like it might apologize. It just shut off. We were in a narrow passage, 70 meters below the surface. Our headlamps washed over calcite formations, damp rock, nothing special. Behind us, the path sloped back toward daylight. Ahead, the beam faded into a darker curve. "Take a break," I said. "I'll walk 50 meters forward, check if it opens or pinches out." "Protocol says we stay together," Quan replied. "Protocol also says I have to finish this section today," I said. "I'll be 5 minutes." I went anyway. The passage tightened, then abruptly widened. The change in air hit me first. The tang of guano, whetstone, dust, and something else. Smoke? Herbs? It smelled warmer, used. My lamp swept across a void and caught geometry. Straight lines. A wall. No, 3 walls, forming a shallow alcove in the rock. Inside it, a low stone platform. On the platform, 7 statues sat in a semicircle, backs against the limestone, facing the cave mouth where I stood. They weren't polished or ornate. Rough, human-sized figures carved from the same rock as the cave, edges softened by time. Robed shapes, hands folded, heads bowed. Their faces had once been detailed. Now the mouths were chipped, noses worn. The eyes were smooth hollows, eroded to featureless depressions, as if dozens of fingers had rubbed them over centuries. Between the statues, on the floor, lay offerings, not ancient relics, not pottery shards. Fresh fruit, plastic water bottles, a small LED candle still faintly glowing. Bills in the local currency, folded neatly. A smartphone turned face down, taped shut with red thread. "Hey, Quan?" I called, voice thin in the open space. "You're going to want to see this." Their footsteps crunched up behind me. When their lights hit the alcove, the silence changed. It felt crowded. "This isn't on any map," Quan murmured. Our local guide, Mateo, went very still. "I warned them," he whispered in our language, then switched to his own dialect, voice low and fast. "What's he saying?" I asked. Quan listened, frowning. "He says the dam company was told not to drill this way. The elders said there was a place where the stone listens." I stepped closer to the offerings. The fruit hadn't even started to rot. The water bottles were beaded with condensation. Someone had been here recently. Very recently. "Could be a local shrine," I said. "Hidden. Used in secret." "In secret from who?" Quan asked. "The village is tiny. Everyone knows everyone." Mateo tugged at my sleeve. "Please," he said in halting English. "We go. No camera, no touch. We go." That should have been the end of it. But my job is documentation, and I'm worse at listening than stone. I set my handheld camera on a rock, aimed at the statues, and hit record. 3 robed figures, maybe more. No, 7, I narrated. Carved from limestone, eyes are heavily worn. Offerings are modern. Currency, electronics, food. We appear to have found an active site. Behind me, Quan knelt, squinting at the base of one statue. "There's something carved here," he said. "Tiny, in columns, like a list." I swung my light down. On the pedestal, etched in painstaking shallow lines, was text. Not Latin letters. Not anything I recognized. Each column ended in a small, simple shape that repeated over and over. "Names?" I guessed. "Like a ledger?" My radio crackled. We all jumped. Down here, interference was common, but this was a single sharp burst, like someone had keyed up. "Base, you on this channel?" I asked. Static. Then, very faintly, "Yes, yes." It sounded like my name swallowed in noise and distance. "Probably just reflection from surface comms," I said quickly, heart racing. "Signal bounce." Quan stood slowly. His face had gone pale. "What?" I asked. He pointed at the base of the middle statue. Near the end of one carved column, among curling symbols, someone had chipped in something newer, shallower. My name, clear. Elias, Quan read aloud. "That's not funny." I laughed, but it came out wrong. "Locals must have seen my badge," I said. "Someone's playing a joke." Mateo shook his head violently. "No," he said. "They know your name before today. And we are first here, no one else with us." I lifted the camera to zoom on the carved letters. The little LED candle on the altar brightened. We all saw it. The flameless plastic flicker went from faint to sharp, harsh white. The shadows of the statues jumped. Something shifted in the alcove, a pressure change like the air sucking in. The radio hissed again. "Ias! Ias! Elias!" This time Quan heard it too. "That's your voice," he whispered. "On the radio, calling your own name." The statues didn't move. Their blind hollows stared past us. "Cut it," I said, throat dry. "No more recording. We log it, mark GPS, leave everything, and get out." We backed away. The LED candle dimmed. On the way up, the scanner restarted without anyone touching it. Back at camp, I locked the camera in my tent and told myself I'd hand the footage straight to the cultural liaison in the morning. I should have thrown it into the river. That night, something woke me. Not a noise. The absence of one. The jungle outside had gone dead quiet. No insects, no night birds, no distant shouting from the workers' tents. Just a thick, pressing silence that felt like the cave had followed us up. My radio on the crate beside my cot clicked. "Elias," my own voice said, a fraction off, like an echo played back badly. "Look!" The tent fabric glowed faintly. The camera's indicator light was on. I hadn't turned it on. I sat up slowly. The LCD had flipped open by itself, bright in the darkness. It was playing back the last recording from the shrine. Statues in a semicircle. Offerings on the stone. My own commentary, shaky but professional. Then, 12 minutes in, far longer than we'd been there, I heard something new. Under my voice, a low murmur had begun. Not static. Prayer. Dozens of overlapping voices chanting in a language I didn't know. Syllables sliding over each other like water over stones. The audio levels on the screen spiked, but the picture didn't change. The statues remained still. No new figures entered the frame. The LED candle in the video flared again. In my tent, the little battery-powered lantern I kept by my cot did the same. The chanting grew louder. My recorded voice faltered. We're going to..." The audio stuttered. We're going to stay." I hadn't said that. On screen, my hand, holding the camera, moved closer to the altar as if placing something on the stone. Something small, shaped like a rectangle. My radio, the one now hissing beside me on the crate. "Elias," my own voice whispered through it. "We already did this." The chanting hit a pitch that made my teeth ache. The statue's blind eyes seemed deeper now, shadows sinking into them like wells. The camera feed glitched. For one frame, instead of 7 stone figures, there were 8. The 8th sat where I had been standing, same height, same posture, same bowed head. The face was unfinished, features blurred, the eyes smooth hollows. The ledger at the base of the middle statue flickered into sharp focus. Multiple columns, hundreds of names, scarred into stone. At the very end of one column, where my name had been, the letters were deeper now. Underneath them, a new line was half-carved, Incomplete. Kwan's name. I slammed the camera shut. The radio went dead. Outside, the jungle noise returned all at once, like someone had unmuted the world. In the morning, I lied. I told the liaison we'd found possible cultural activity and recommended the dam be rerouted. I filed incomplete coordinates. I turned in an empty SD card and said the recording had failed. 3 months later, I got a package in the mail. No return address. Inside, wrapped in cloth, was a small limestone figure. Rough, human-shaped, bowed head, hands folded. The eyes were smooth, eroded hollows. At the base, someone had scratched a few shallow lines. The beginnings of a ledger. There's only one name on it so far. Mine. The stone feels warmer than it should in my hands. Sometimes, at night, when the house is quiet and I've almost forgotten the smell of that cave, I hear chanting seep from the walls, low and steady, in a language I still don't know. It comes from whatever room I've left the statue in. And every time I check, the lines at the base look a little deeper. Nobody told us about the statues. The brochure for the old monastery talked about frescoes, candlelit chapels, wine cellars carved into the hillside. A journey through centuries of faith, it promised. It didn't mention the stairs that went down past the cellars, or the door at the bottom with the rusted sign that read, in barely legible script, Accesso proibito, Santuario inferior. My friend Luca squinted at it with his phone light. Prohibited access, he translated. Lower sanctuary. Sounds like a challenge. We weren't there as pilgrims. We were there as content creators. Our channel specialized in forbidden places around Europe. Crypts, deconsecrated churches, forgotten tunnels. We always stayed just legal enough to avoid real trouble. The monastery tour was open to the public. The door at the bottom of the extra stairwell was not. I thought the tour ended at the wine barrels, I said. The guide didn't mention this. That's exactly why we should film it, Lucas said, grin sharp in the dim. Exclusive, hidden. Monastery's off-limits underground shrine. We shouldn't have gone. I can see the title already. Our camera woman Anna hesitated. The air feels weird, she said softly. Heavier. You don't feel that? I did. But I also saw our subscriber count in my head. Quick look, I said. If it's locked, we leave. If it's open, we get 5 minutes of footage and blame it on getting lost if someone catches us. The door wasn't locked. The hinges protested, groaning like something waking up. Cold air flowed past us. Not the mildew of unused cellars, something else. The faint scent of burned herbs. Candle smoke. Old stone. We stepped through into a low tunnel carved from rock, walls sweating moisture. Small niches for oil lamps lined the way, empty and dark. Maybe it's just another chapel they don't maintain, Anna whispered. The tunnel ended in a circular chamber. Our lights found them immediately. Statues. Dozens of them. They ringed the room, backs against the rough wall, forming a silent congregation. Human-sized figures carved from pale stone, draped in simple robes. Each held their hands in a different gesture, some in prayer, some extended outward, some palms up as if weighing something invisible. Their faces were almost gone. Time, moisture, and fingers had smoothed them down. Noses blunted, mouths eroded into soft lines. The eyes were the worst. Where pupils and eyelids should have been, there were only worn hollows. 2 smooth, shallow depressions in each face, polished more than any other part of the stone, as if hundreds of fingertips had touched them again and again. At their feet lay offerings, coins, candles, strings of beads, a plastic lighter, a modern metro ticket, a child's toy car, a folded piece of paper wrapped with red thread. Okay, Luca breathed. That's actually creepy. This is perfect. He stepped into the center of the circle, turning slowly with the camera. "Guys, we found what the monastery didn't want to show," he said, his influencer voice kicking in automatically. "An underground shrine, hidden under the wine cellars. Look at these statues. Look, the eyes are completely worn down. People have been touching them for centuries." Anna stayed near the tunnel entrance. "I don't like how they're arranged," she said. "They're all facing inward. At us." "That's how shrines work," Luca said. "You put the faithful around the sacred center." "What's the sacred center?" I asked. I turned my light down. In the middle of the floor, flush with the stone, was a circular depression, dark and wet. Not a pool. Not quite. It looked like a footprint made by something much too large. "Anna, get a mic on this," Luca said, oblivious. "We'll whisper. Make it atmospheric." He moved toward one of the statues and reached up. "Dude, don't touch them," I said reflexively. "This is what people did," he said. "It's part of the ritual. You touch the eyes and make a wish, right? That's why they're worn." His fingertips brushed the smooth hollows where the statue's eyes had been. The room went colder. The stone under my boots vibrated, like distant thunder. Our 3 headlamps flickered in sync, dimming, then recovering. From somewhere beyond the chamber, deeper in the rock, came a sound. A murmur. Not pipes, not wind, not tour groups. Voices. Dozens of them, layered, chanting in low tones. The words were not in Italian, not in any language I recognized. The syllables rolled and clicked, harsh and soft at once. "What is that?" Anna whispered. I swallowed. "Probably monks," I said. "Recording, hidden speakers, atmosphere." Even as I said it, I knew it was wrong. The sound wasn't coming from speakers. It was coming through the stone. The offerings at the statue's feet rattled. Coins shivered against one another. The toy car rolled a centimeter toward the center. The folded note twisted as if something had tugged the thread. Luca stepped back, hand dropping from the statue's face. "Okay," he said, voice overly loud. "We've got enough. Let's—" The chanting rose in volume, filling the chamber without echo. It was inside my skull. One word threaded through it, repeated, emphasized, shaped by different mouths. We didn't understand it, but we knew it meant us. The air thickened. My ears popped like we were changing altitude. The headlamps dimmed again, struggling. "Anna," I said, "turn off the camera. We're leaving, now." She didn't move. She was staring at something behind me, eyes wide. "Don't turn around," she whispered. I turned anyway. The statues hadn't changed. They still stood rigid, blind faces turned inward, but the hollows where their eyes had been were no longer uniformly smooth. In some of them, too many, something dark gleamed faintly, as if wet, as if deep. It looked horribly like eyes opening in the worn stone. "Run," I said. We sprinted for the tunnel. The chanting followed, not fading with distance. The air grew denser, resisting us. Halfway back, Luca stumbled. He fell to his knees, palms scraping rock. My lamp caught his face. His own eyes were rolled up, showing too much white. His hands clawed at his cheeks, then rose, slowly, toward the stone walls. Fingers splayed like he was feeling for something. "Stop him!" Anna shouted. I grabbed his wrists. He was cold. "Luca!" I yelled. "Look at me!" He didn't. His gaze was fixed on something behind me, past me, through me. His pupils tracked along the curve of the chamber as if following a ring of unseen faces. The chanting peaked, a wave crashing inside my bones. For a second, I felt hands on my own eyelids. Not physical, a pressure, a weighing. Would I be allowed to leave? Anna slapped Luca hard across the face. The sound snapped like a breaking branch. He gasped. The chanting cut off. Silence slammed down around us. "Go," he croaked. "Go, I'm okay. We didn't argue. We scrambled up the stairwell, through the forbidden door, back into the warm, wine-scented corridors of the monastery tour. Voices from above, tourists, guides, distant laughter, suddenly sounded surreal. We didn't film anything else that day. That night in the cheap hostel room, we reviewed the footage. The audio was useless. During the entire time in the lower sanctuary, the microphone had recorded nothing but a faint, irregular buzzing. "Our mics fried," Anna said. "All of them, at once." The video was worse. Every time the camera framed one of the statues straight on, the image warped. The stone bodies blurred, fuzzing at the edges. The faces, not just the eyes, smudged into white, like overexposed photos. Only one frame was clear. One? In it, the camera had accidentally caught my reflection in a patch of polished rock near the tunnel wall as we ran. Behind my reflected shoulder, the statues were visible in perfect focus. Every one of their worn faces had eyes. Human eyes, dark and attentive, set in eroded sockets, watching us go. We deleted the footage. The next day, before leaving town, I went back to the monastery alone and asked the guide, casually, about old subterranean chapels. He smiled politely. "There is no access below the wine cellars," he said. "Many stories, no doors." His eyes slid to my face. "You should not search for what was meant to be blind," he added quietly. "It's been months. Luca won't talk about that trip. Anna moved to a different country, new job, new life. Sometimes, when I close my eyes to sleep, I see smooth stone hollows. If I lie very still, I feel a phantom urge to reach up and press my thumbs into them, to rub until something behind them wakes. And once, just once, when I turned on my bathroom light at 3 in the morning, my reflection in the mirror wasn't quite right. My own eyes were too pale, too worn, like something, somewhere in the dark, had been touching them in my sleep." I used to think caves were the quietest places on Earth. Then I found the one that prays. We were 4 in the expedition. Me, Carla, speleologist, twins Jonas and Joel, rope techs, and our local contact, a geology student named Maria. The cave system had been mapped to depth 38 years ago, but a narrow fissure at the end of the last chamber suggested it continued. Uncharted. That's what we live for. We set camp at depth 25, a relatively flat chamber with a trickle of water and enough room for 4 bivy sacks. The descent to 38 took the better part of a day. Pitches, squeezes, cold pools. The world above shrank to an abstract concept. At depth 38, the known map ended. Rock closed in around us, ceiling low, floor uneven. The fissure yawned in the far wall. Barely 20 centimeters wide, it exhaled cold air that smelled faintly of minerals. And something else. Smoke? Ash? "Too narrow," Jonas said, checking it with his gloved hand. "Not worth it?" Maria shook her head. "Feel the draft," she said. "There's space beyond, probably a collapse that can be cleared." We took turns widening it, chipping carefully, prying loose flakes. The rock here was softer, as if water had chewed at it for centuries. After an hour, the gap was wide enough for a slim person to squeeze through. "That'll be you," Joel said, looking at me. "You're the smallest." "I go with her," Maria said. "We rope in. If it opens into anything unsafe, we back out." We tied in, synced our radios, and slid through. On the other side, the rock dropped away. Our headlamps caught a void big enough to swallow our beams. The floor was 5 meters down, uneven but solid. We rappelled in a controlled slide, boots skidding on damp stone. "Depth 39, I said. "New chamber." The air was warmer here. That was the first wrong thing. Caves usually get colder as you descend. Here, a gentle heat pulsed from somewhere beyond. bringing with it a scent that did not belong underground. Burned herbs, melted wax, human presence. "Do you hear that?" Maria asked. At first I thought it was water, a low, continuous sound like a distant stream. Then I realized there was rhythm, cadence, voices, dozens of them murmuring together in a tongue that clipped and flowed, consonants rubbing against vowels in patterns my brain couldn't parse. "We're picking up surface noise?" I muttered. Maria shook her head slowly. "No," she whispered. "This is from below." We followed the sound. The chamber narrowed into a passage wide enough for two to walk side by side. The floor smoothed out, worn by feet or water. Our lights picked out shapes on the walls. Carvings, figures, rough and repeated. Bodies kneeling, heads bowed, hands raised toward the floor below, as if the earth itself were something to worship. The passage opened abruptly into a domed cavern. The smell hit us like a wall. Smoke, yes. Charred herbs and tallow. But also fresh wax, human sweat. The coppery tang of coin. "Jesus," I breathed. "Not Jesus," Maria said. The shrine filled the far half of the chamber. Carved directly from the stone, a tiered platform rose like a stepped altar. On its uppermost level sat a ring of statues, life-sized backs to the wall, facing the center. There were 13 of them. They were not robed like saints. They wore nothing identifiable. Just generic human-like forms with folded hands and bowed heads. Their faces were worn to near nothing. Smooth hollows for eyes, faded contours where mouths had been, cheeks rubbed down by touch. At their feet lay offerings, not from the distant past, modern coins in multiple currencies, bills folded into triangles, candles burned down to puddles of wax, cheap plastic bracelets, a car key, a USB drive, a disposable lighter, a paper coffee cup with a global brand logo, half full of something dark and dried. Maria whispered something in her language. "What?" I asked. "Nothing," she said quickly. "Just respect." The voices were louder now. We still saw no one. The sound of prayer came from everywhere and nowhere at once. Through the stone, from the floor, vibrating in our bones. The language was unknown, but the shape of it was familiar. Pleading, thanking, bargaining. Recordings? I guessed. Speakers hidden in the rock? "In a cave?" Maria said. "Who did this? How? And why here?" I stepped closer to the nearest statue. Its stone was polished to a dull sheen. The eye hollows glowed faintly in my lamp, shadows deep. I shivered. On the lowest tier of the platform lay something rectangular and leather-bound, half buried in candle wax. A book. I reached for it. "Don't," Maria said sharply. "We need data," I replied. "This is someone's active site. We can't pretend we didn't see." My fingers closed around the book's edge. The moment I lifted it, the praying stopped. Not gradually. Cut. Silence dropped into the chamber like a stone into water, leaving a ringing absence in its wake. My headlamps hummed audibly. Dust drifted in still air. The book was old but not ancient. Cracked leather, pages yellowed at the edges. No title on the cover, just an embossed circle of symbols too worn to read. I opened it. The pages were filled with text. Not English, not Latin, not any script I recognized. Symbols curled and crossed, arranged in tight lines. Here and there, between the alien letters, familiar ones appeared, like intrusive weeds. Dates, some from decades ago, some from last year, some from next year. My own birthday was there, written in my calendar's format. My thumb brushed it involuntarily. Something scraped behind us. We turned together. The passage we'd entered by was still there, but the space felt smaller. The dome lower, the statues closer. I could swear they had been on the far side of the platform before. Now they seemed nearer. My radio crackled. "Carla?" Jonas's voice. Muffled, distant. "You two okay?" The line keeps repeating your last transmission." I raised the radio. "This is Carla," I said. "We found a chamber at depth 39. There's a shrine. We're—" Static drowned me. Behind it, threaded through the hiss, I heard the same chant we'd followed here. "La, La." "Do you hear that?" I asked Maria. She nodded slowly. "They're saying your name," she whispered. I looked back at the book. The page I'd touched now held more Latin letters, scrawled between the others in a cramped hand. Carla next to it, an empty space, as if waiting. "Put it back," Maria said. "Now." I did. Carefully. The moment it touched stone, the chanting resumed, louder. This time, there were other sounds layered in. The clink of coins, the hiss of candles, footsteps, sighs. But still, we saw no one. The offerings at the statue's feet shifted. Coins trembled. The car key rotated. The USB drive inched toward the edge. At the base of one statue, directly in front of us, a small blackened space had been cleared in the wax, as if for something new. "No," I said to the cave. To the statues. To whatever listened. "We're leaving." We backed away toward the passage. As we did, the eye hollows seemed to deepen. The blind faces felt like they were turning ever so slightly to follow. At the threshold, I risked one last glance. In that heartbeat, the chanting paused on a single collective syllable, a sound like breath drawn in. Then it spoke one word, in a voice that was not a chorus, but a single enormous mouth. "Stay." We ran. The passage felt longer on the way back. The air thickened, resisting us. Our ropes at the drop to 38 swung in a wind we couldn't feel. We climbed anyway. Only when we hauled ourselves back through the fissure into the known cave did the praying cut off again. We scrambled to camp, babbling over each other. Jonas stared at us like we were ghosts. "You were gone 10 minutes, he said. "We were down there at least an hour, I said. He shook his head. "We heard something on the radio," he said. "Like you trying to call." But it was the same 10 seconds repeating. Anna. No, that was a different story. Here it was Maria. She sat on her pack, shaking, refusing to talk. We left the next morning. On the surface, sunlight felt wrong. Too loud. The world too open. I tried to rationalize it. Acoustics, hallucinations. Old shrine used by unknown locals, stumbled into ritual space at the wrong time. Everything else, names in the book, the voice, stress and darkness and isolation. Then, back home, my mailbox jammed. In the pile of flyers and bills was a small padded envelope with no return address. Inside was a USB drive. Black plastic, scuffed, exactly like the one at the statue's feet. I plugged it into a laptop in the office, half expecting a virus. There was only one audio file. Depth 39, Prayer, MP3. I put on headphones. At first, just low murmuring. The same chant, the same unknown language. Layers and layers of voices. Then, threaded through it, clear as a bell. Carla. My own voice. Praying. The language made sense only while I was hearing it. The moment I took the headphones off, the words dissolved, leaving only a heavy, aching desire behind. A pull. A wanting. To be back in that chamber. To kneel. To add something of mine to the little cleared space at the statue's feet. I wiped the drive. I smashed it. I threw the pieces into separate bins across the city. It didn't help. At night, when the pipes hum and the building settles, I hear the underground again. Hundreds of voices rising and falling, asking and thanking and pleading. Somewhere under all of them, mine. Praying in a language I still don't know, to statues that have never seen sunlight, whose blind eyes are worn smooth by hands that never left the dark. And every morning when I wake, there's a faint smell of burned herbs on my pillow, like something has been leaning close, listening, waiting for me to answer.